All right, hello and welcome. So today we're covering Aberroth and the kill. Got one last night. Really cool fight. Overall, really like him. And so today what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give some commentary on the fight. Things to watch out for. This isn't like there's nothing official here. I don't have like strict notes about all the strategies to do. This isn't like an actual boss guide, so to speak. I'll also talk a little bit about some of my opinions on certain parts of the fight. There's a few things I don't super like about it, but overall, this is like a really, really well-designed fight. One of the best I've ever seen in an ARPG. Close, I'd say, in quality to like a MMO raid fight. Even though, you know, you can do it in single player, so you don't have to like, coordinate with people. But as far as like all the different mechanics and learning them progressively and getting better at the fight, not struggling with things you start with at the beginning, that kind of thing, I think it's really good. By the way, I have a background of 15 years of raiding, including Mythic raiding and World of Warcraft, so I do know a bit about raiding, which is why I use it as an example. I'll apologize right now, this is 720p because I have a terrible internet service provider who I can't trust. So that will be changing in about a week to 10 days as I'm moving to somewhere where I have great internet. I can't wait, but this is not the highest quality. I wish it was, but it's what we got to work with. All right, let's go ahead and get into the video. So, of course, you have to start off by putting an eye in there that you get from Harbingers. You have to kill all 10 Harbingers to get here. And the first part of the fight is actually not Aberroth at all. You're going to fight the same 2 Harbingers that you were fighting throughout the 10 timelines, but now together. They don't have any of the timeline boss abilities. They just have their own specific abilities, which you could look up on Maxroll, because I have that broken down. I wrote all the boss guides for the Harbingers. I got that broken down by their specifics, and then the ones they get from timelines, so you can see all the ones they will have in this fight. Not especially hard. Kind of annoying to have to do it every time before fighting Aberroth. With a high damage build, this got a lot more damage later on than it did when I first started attempting the fight. It took me about 22 fights, by the way, to get it right. I started doing it blind. I did most of my fights without looking up any guides. At the very end, after I'd gotten to the last phase of him, I looked up to check and see if I was getting some bad RNG on some stuff, which I was, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, these guys are a little annoying when you don't have a lot of damage. They're not too bad when you have enough damage to kill them quickly, but having to fight them at the beginning every single time, I kind of don't like. I get them thematically being here, but I think once you've killed them, you should probably just be able to jump into the Harbinger on subsequent eyes, but not a big deal either way. So after you kill the Harbingers, you get to the point to where you lose your little NPC that was following you around. By the way, he's kind of annoying because he'll tank attacks, which means you can't see where the Harbinger is going to actually attack because it's not attacking you. But once you get used to that, it's not too bad. But then you get to Aberroth, and Aberroth immediately opens up with this laser beam and this big circle here where you have to stand in it, and then as soon as all of the stuff out on the outside goes away, you have to jump out so you don't get hit by the big AoE. I actually timed that a little bit too quickly and took some damage, but nothing too. By the way, this is 1x speed right now. This is a really fast build. That attack he just did there, he does these 3 triangle attacks. He does those in front of him and then to the side, so you can easily avoid those by doing one of 2 things. You can either stand behind him, which I usually do, or you can stand to the side and then move to the front as soon as the front one explodes. We're going back to the big circle here. Stand in it, wait, and then jump out and run. I run farther than I have to, but just to be sure. He also has another really scary attack of this phase where he puts down a big wall of void. This super high void damage. Watch out for that. He switches phases here. He also switches timelines. So now we are in the like dinosaur timeline, and I got hit by, there's a green sort of line that goes across from time to time. And all it really does is roots you, which is kind of annoying, but as long as you're not standing in anything, not a big deal. It's avoidable. It takes up half the side, half of one side, and then there's a second one that goes to the other half, so you can just go down to the one half and then switch back. He does almost all of, if not all of his mechanics from the first phase and the second phase, and then he adds a few. He adds some fire in the front. There's a fire attack in the front that can do a lot of damage. These beams get stronger as you go. The more progressive, you get more of them. Also, these big circles that are going through, if you get hit by that, it puts down a big void pool that does a lot of dot damage. So avoid them if you can. The cold little balls that he's putting out here, I haven't noticed them doing much damage, so they're not too scary. Same thing with the circle, lightning circles there. Avoid them if you can, but this attack here, the big circle attack, the dots from these circles there, you see I just hit one and put down a big circle. Those are pretty scary. The void beams are scary. Most of the void stuff is the scariest stuff in this fight. Almost died there. I got out of it. He does this necrotic ability. It doesn't seem to do much damage, but I also have really high dodge, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. You can see every time I go through that beam, it does quite a bit of damage. It chunks me. As long as I go through it quickly, I'm okay, though. There's that circular fire thing that he puts on you, and then it stays on you for a little bit. You run around, and then it'll drop, and then you just run out of it. Similar to Jolra's void thing that she does when you switch timelines. If you see that, most people just skip it because there's a way to cheese it. So now we're getting to the last phase here. This is where things get crazy. This is where most people are going to die. He's going to do most of the same things, except he's going to do this like this conal attack, which doesn't actually do a tremendous amount of damage, but it does a bit. But that blast he does immediately after does a ton of damage. He does a conal attack, finishes that, and then immediately turns to you and does the blast. And then he goes into this. This is quite a bit harder because he's now made the arena much smaller. You can see it's much smaller, but there is still space as long as he's on the side, and usually he is. But also watch out for the void beams. You can get absolutely screwed by the void beams in this last phase because they can put too many out in front of you where you want to go and you just get hit. I don't know if there's a good solution to that. I just bad RNG. That's the only thing I've noticed is like pretty bad RNG. It can be. So now he's dead. That's the whole fight. It's pretty challenging. There's a lot of damage that goes out. You definitely need to have enough sustain. I highly recommend endurance for the fight. Highly recommend it because there's so much dot damage. Any dot mitigation you can get, like armor mitigation applies to dots. Anything you can get is pretty big for this fight. I got really lucky on this one too. I got a super good drop, like a 0.5% drop. I got the Seed of Ectosol 2 LP. I'm about to look at it. There it is. Really super good drop. Yeah, like the whole fight it's a really cool fight. I highly recommend if you're someone who's pushing far enough that you check it out and try it. Check out some other videos of other people doing it. This one should give you a pretty decent idea, but there's a lot going on in the fight. Most of it's not super important. Most of it's not gonna get you killed as long as you're not constantly standing and stuff. All the void attacks are the stuff you really gotta watch out for. The triple triangle attack he does, the one in the front and the sides, definitely gotta try to avoid that. Usually doesn't one-shot you, but it gets real close. The void beams, if you stand those, you're gonna die real quick. The void wall that he puts out, it's just like a straight line. It lasts for a long time, so it's easy to actually walk over it. That does a tremendous amount of damage. And of course, when he does his swinging around of his, it's not a mace, but whatever his weapon is, and you have a circle you have to stand in, and then the outer stuff's all void. That outer void stuff's very dangerous and gets stronger over its duration. And you've definitely got to make sure you run out as soon as it's over, because that slam will one-shot you almost all the time. I have seen a build survive it, but I still to this day don't know how it did because it didn't have much health. But most of the time it's going to kill you. So once you get the general mechanics down though, up until the last phase, it's not too bad. Last phase is pretty hectic. You definitely want some good damage for that. If your damage is low, you're going to be dealing with a lot of very dangerous stuff for a considerable period of time. So definitely try to go into this with a good damage build. Damage seems to be more important for this fight than defense. I've seen multiple builds clear this with like 1500 to 1700 health, which was shocking, but they do. Probably because there's a lot of dot stuff. You have endurance, you have leech, you can get through it. But the big thing for those builds was they didn't spend a lot of time on the fight. They killed it pretty quickly, and so while they were dealing with mechanics, they weren't dealing with their own mental endurance of trying to deal with this for an extended period of time, which when you have that little health, you don't have that much room for error. So definitely make sure you've got the damage for the fight. All right, I think that's all I want to say about the fight. Very cool. Very good job, EHG. I'm really impressed. I did not get to see it during CT. We ended up opting out. Maxroll did, so that we could see it for the first time during the patch. So I didn't have any preconceived notions or understanding or feedback before. So great job. Yeah, excellent work on it. A couple of small things. Oh yeah, one other thing I want to mention, if EHG is watching, I do feel like the void areas really difficult to see sometimes. The telegraphs really not friendly for colorblind people. So that's something to think about. If you could even lighten up the background, but the ground, do something to make the void stuff stand out. I think that would really help them. It's hard enough to see it when you're not colorblind. I can't imagine trying to do it when you're colorblind. But yeah, overall, great fight. Truly, very impressed. Like I said, has some MMO style feel to it, MMO raid style feel, which I love. So really, really great job. Definitely, I'm gonna plan on farming that more today because the drops are amazing. If you want to check me out, check me out. That sounds kind of weird. I actually don't know if this will come out in time for you to see that, but I'm sure I'll be doing this more throughout the week and the months, trying to get those sweet drops and checking out other builds on the fight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in LE, great time with the boss, and I'll see you all again real soon.